After doing several thought records, Alan could see how his negative hot thoughts caused him to feel strong negative emotions throughout the week. He told himself that he wanted to stop thinking such pessimistic thoughts, but in practice, he found it easy to think of things that seemed to prove that his negative hot thoughts were true, and he found it difficult to see any evidence that didn't support them. For example, recently Alan had been talking on the phone with his son. When Alan mentioned that he was planning to attend a veterans event with an old friend, his son said, "Oh, nice," and changed the subject. After finishing his conversation, Alan felt frustrated and hurt. He filled out a thought record and identified a couple of his automatic thoughts. He's never understood what it means to be a veteran, and he doesn't appreciate the sacrifices I made while serving in the military. Alan decided that the second thought was the hot thought because it made him feel the most frustrated when he considered it individually. Sometimes Alan felt better after filling out a thought record, but when he considered the hot thought he'd identified, he still felt frustrated and hurt. He couldn't think of any reason why his thought might not be true. But the CBTD course had taught him to think of each hot thought as a hypothesis or guess, so he decided to try out a new CBT skill he'd learned called organizing the evidence for and against the hot thought. This skill allowed Alan to 1. Separate the factual evidence from his interpretations of things, and 2. Collect an honest inventory of the evidence that was consistent with his hot thought, as well as the evidence that wasn't consistent with it. First, Alan listed the evidence for his hot thought. He wrote, "My son rarely asks about my military service, and when I brought up the veterans event, he said, 'Oh, nice,' and changed the subject." When it came to the evidence against the hot thought, Alan felt stuck. By clicking "I'm feeling stuck," he was able to access a list of questions to help him uncover more evidence. These questions are included in the CBTD workbook as well. Alan considered the question, are there aspects of the hot thought that are interpretations as opposed to facts? After thinking for a moment, Alan decided to write, "My son has never actually said that he doesn't appreciate the sacrifices I made by serving in the military." Then he considered another question. Can you think of any information or personal experiences that suggest this thought is not always 100% true? After thinking for a moment, Alan remembered that once his son had told Alan that he thought it must have been hard to be sent into a war zone at such a young age, so he decided to write that down as well. Already, organizing the evidence had helped Alan get a different view of the situation, which, in itself, improved his mood a little. Because the CBTD course encouraged Alan to look at the evidence both for and against his hot thought, he knew that this wasn't just an exercise in wishful positive thinking. But at the same time, this skill allowed him to consider the evidence against his hot thought, which, because of his depression, wasn't naturally coming to his attention. This helped make Alan's thinking more realistic overall, because it was more consistent with the hard evidence he had about the situation. Organizing the evidence was also important because it would help Alan come up with a realistic and positive alternative thought, which was a skill he'd learn about a bit later in the same session.